The Bears 24 kicking off our mailbag saying, are we overlooking the Titans in week one? It's a good question. And when the schedule came out, I was like, okay, this is a very manageable opening game. One you should win. And I still feel that way. I still think you should win this game. The Bears are favored 4.5 points, which is pretty significant point spread in an NFL game, especially week one. It's not a massive one, but a lot of NFL games are, less than 3 points. This one's 4.5, over under 43.5. But the Talons have some talent. They spent some money. They brought in guys like Calvin Ridley and L'Jarius Sneed. We'll see if DeAndre Hopkins is ready week one. It's going to be right on the bubble there. I think their defensive line, obviously they have Jeffrey Simmons, who's great. O-line's got question marks. They drafted J.C. Latham, but a lot to prove there overall. And their biggest question mark is clearly behind, other than maybe a first-year coaching staff, is Will Levis. Will Levis was all over the place last year in 9 games. A couple weeks he looked awesome, like that crazy comeback against Miami. I mean, he literally looked like Peyton Manning. They erased a 15-point deficit in the final 3 minutes. But I think the stats kind of tell the story. Erratic accuracy, some good, some bad, below average QB rating. I do think week one is massive for morale. Just after what happened last year, starting 0-4, and you make all these changes this year, you need to get off to a good start. This is as close to a must-win game in the NFL as you're going to see. Because if you lose week one, you're on the road in Houston in week two. Doesn't mean you couldn't come back and win that game in week two, but that's a tough ask after losing to an inferior team compared to Houston in Tennessee at home in week one. So I think you need to win this game. You can't overlook them. They've got some talent, but you should win. So hopefully that ends up happening. What is your confidence level in week one? Scale from 0 to 10. 0 being, again, not confident at all. 10 being very confident. I'll go 8-1. I feel good, but it's week one. You don't know how these teams are going to come out. You got to play well. You got to play smart. And it's a rookie quarterback's first start. There's no guarantees here. Hunter Young, appreciate the super chat. He says, do you think the Bears are overrated, properly rated, or underrated? I think if you average it all out, properly rated. I think if you took all the big national media heads' takes, the average would be somewhere like, yeah, they're a fringe playoff team. Like, they could be a wild card team, something like that. You've got the extreme, like Nick Wright picking them to make the Super Bowl. You've got some people still thinking they're like a 6-7 win team. I think the average is, yeah, they should win like 8, 9, 10 games. 9 or 10 is probably the most commonly used one. So I think properly is fair. Their over-unders 8.5. If most people have them around 9 wins, it's kind of right on the money. So, I'll have my official record prediction before week one. But, yeah, that's kind of where I think it stands right now. Kevin Bates, who will have the best season of the wide receivers? It's a good question. I would lean DJ. He's still young. He's going to give you a lot of yards after the catch, obviously. They just paid him. I could see Keenan getting more targets. I could see Rome being the biggest big play guy, like the vertical guy. So I think they're all going to have their roles, but I think DJ's the safe bet. But I could see a scenario where it's any of the three. I really do think that. Courtney Cronin of ESPN wrote an article about this is not your, typical number 3 receiver in Rome Odunze. Like, his draft profile is of becoming a number 1 receiver at some point. He just happens to play with DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. So you got 3 dudes that can really play, really talented, and that's exciting. That's exciting to see. We'll be live for Bears versus Titans, just like we'll be live for every single game this year. Hopefully some playoff games as well. Subscribe and join us. If you turn on those notifications, you'll know when we go live at least an hour before kickoff, potentially a little bit earlier. So lock us in. We got you covered. Hypergenesis, do you have stats projection for Caleb for game 1? Well, I took the more on his passing yards and prize picks, so at least 237 passing yards. I think he'll throw for mid-200s, 245, 250. How about this? 245 passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. He'll rush for like 35 yards. I think he'll be between 275 and 300 total yards, a couple of touchdowns, 1 turnover. I think it'll be a good debut. Don't think it'll be just insane, but I think he'll kind of ease his way in and put together a solid performance. Lacora, does Teven Jenkins need to play at least 12-plus games to earn an extension despite his injuries? I mean, I think it needs to be more than 12. Like I said it the other day, I think if he can give you 14 or more, where when he's healthy, he's dominant and he misses 3 games at most, I'd feel comfortable pushing forward with an extension, knowing that he's probably going to miss time most years. But, if it's 10, 11, 12, it's like maybe you franchise tag him, maybe you sign him to like a 1-year incentive-laden deal if he's willing to agree to that. If he misses 6 games, it's like, I love the guy, but if he's going to miss 35% of the snaps every year, that's a lot to deal with when it comes to paying a guard a lot of money. And you guys saw the guard market this year; it exploded. And Teven's more talented than a lot of the guys that got paid, so he's going to cost a lot of money if he's healthy. So you got to see him be healthy. Let's get the good vibes rolling, baby. Bear down in the comments. I don't care if you type it out, use the emojis, whatever. Let's get the vibes up as we get closer and closer to week 1 of Bears versus Titans. Let's go. School stuff. What's a Gordon extension look like? $40 million plus. Well, we got to see this year play out. He's not eligible till after this season, but yeah, I mean, if he plays like he looked in the preseason, I mean, can you get him at like 10 to 12 million per year on a 3 or 4 year deal? Like, is 4 for 50 on the table? That's what Cole Kmet got at tight end. That'd be 12.5 a year. Like, I'd probably do that for a high-level nickel if he plays well this year. He plays the run. He plays the pass. He's athletic as hell. He's seemingly becoming kind of a leader. So, yeah, I mean, I think really good nickel corners can make 10+ million a year, and he could certainly fit that mold. Craig Atkins, hashtag Bears or Super Chat. He says, how many returns will the Bears have in the new kickoff format? I mean, I'd just be guessing at an actual number because there's a lot of factors that go into that. How many return opportunities do they get in the game? How many points are scored? Yada, yada, yada. It'll definitely be more, although I kind of have a theory that by like week 4 or 5, at least half the league is just going to tell their kicker to start booting it out of the end zone. Because I feel like in the preseason, more often than not, these returns were getting past the 30. And if the average is going to be past the 30, well, why wouldn't you just kick it for a touchback to the 30? New touchbacks to the 30, not the 25. So I think you'll see teams try to pin teams back early, but if that's ineffective, they're just going to start booming it deep. So we'll see. It'll be up, Craig. I'm not as convinced it'll be as much up as people think. Jeremy J.D. Dorsey, over under 150 rushing yards for Velus this year. That's a good number. Gosh. If if Khalil's here and doesn't get moved at all, I mean, how many opportunities is he going to get a game? Like, I think logic would take the under, but if there's even one injury to your running back room, he'd probably get some touches. So, I don't know. Guys get hurt at running back. Khalil missed some time last year. I'll take the over. How about like between 175 and 200? But I don't think like we're getting like a 500-yard Velus Jones rushing season. DC Viper gets the final word on this mailbag. He says, do you think the Bears are going to see what they have in Booker before they make any moves, trades, etc.? Do you see him starting this year? Well, they already made the Darrell Taylor trade. But, yeah, I think Booker's going to get opportunities. I think he earned those in the preseason. Eberflus said opposite of Montez Sweat, you're going to see a heavy rotation there. Taylor's going to play. Walker's going to play. He'll kick inside some. Booker's going to play. So I think Booker will get looks. And, if that rotation's holding its own, they may not need to force the issue at that edge position. All right, if you have any more questions, find me on social media at HGramNFL on both Instagram and Twitter. It's at HGramNFL on both of those platforms. DMs are wide open, so hit me up at HGramNFL.